The rain fell steadily over San Francisco's busy streets. It was the kind of rain that made everyone hurry home, except for Jai-Ho Park, who had nowhere to go. He sat under a small shelter he had made from cardboard and plastic sheets near a busy intersection. The shelter wasn't much, but it kept his papers dry, and that was what mattered most to him. Jai-Ho looked at his worn notebook, carefully protected in a clear plastic bag. Inside were drawings, calculations, and ideas that he couldn't stop working on, even after losing everything. His fingers were dirty, but his mind was as sharp as ever. He picked up a pencil stub and continued writing numbers and drawing diagrams. 6 months of living on the streets had changed how Jai-Ho looked, but not who he was. His clothes were old and dirty, and his face was covered with an untidy beard. Still, his eyes stayed bright and focused, especially when he worked on his designs. He was different from other homeless people in the area. While they collected cans or asked for money, Jai-Ho spent his days writing in his notebook and drawing on any paper he could find. The evening traffic moved slowly through the rain. Expensive cars passed by, BMWs, Mercedes, and many Teslas. Jai-Ho watched them without much interest. He used to drive a Tesla himself, back when he was a senior engineer at the company. Now those memories felt like they belonged to someone else's life. A black Tesla Model S slowed down near his shelter. This wasn't unusual. Cars often stopped at the red light here. Jai-Ho didn't look up. He was too busy fixing a mistake in his calculations about battery efficiency. The numbers had to be perfect. They were all he had left. The car's window rolled down with a quiet hum. "Hey, what are you working on there?" The voice was familiar. Too familiar. Jai-Ho looked up slowly, his eyes widening as he recognized the face looking out from the Tesla. It was Elon Musk himself. Jai-Ho's heart started beating faster. 2 years ago, he would have given anything for a chance to show his ideas to Elon Musk. Now, looking like this, he wanted to hide. But something made him stay still. Maybe it was because he had nothing left to lose. Battery optimization calculations. Jai-Ho answered simply, his voice rough from not speaking much. He held up his notebook, showing pages of neat writing and detailed diagrams, despite the poor conditions he worked in. Musk's eyebrows went up with interest. The traffic light turned green, but he didn't move. Cars behind him started honking. He ignored them and pulled his car to the side of the road, putting on his hazard lights. "Those look like some serious equations," Musk said, getting out of his car. He was wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, not caring about the rain. "Mind if I take a closer look?" Jai-Ho watched as one of the world's richest men walked through the rain to look at a homeless man's notebooks. The situation felt unreal. He carefully pulled out his main notebook from its plastic cover. "The current Tesla battery system is good," Jai-Ho explained, his old engineer's confidence coming back slightly. "But it could be better. These calculations show how to increase efficiency by changing the cell arrangement and improving the cooling system." Musk crouched down next to Jai-Ho's shelter, his eyes moving quickly over the pages. The rain kept falling, but he didn't seem to notice. He was completely focused on the calculations. "This is interesting," Musk said slowly. "Very interesting. Where did you learn about battery systems?" Jai-Ho took a deep breath. "I used to work for Tesla. Advanced Engineering Division, Battery Development Section. I was there for 4 years. Musk looked up sharply. "You worked for Tesla. What's your name?" "Jai-Ho Park." Musk's face changed as he remembered something. "Park. Wait. Were you working on the X15 battery project? The experimental one?" Jai-Ho nodded. "Yes. I was the lead engineer, but the project was canceled during the big layoffs 2 years ago. They said it was too expensive and too risky." Around them, the city continued its busy evening routine. People walked past, some staring at the unusual sight of Elon Musk sitting next to a homeless man surrounded by papers. A few took out their phones to take pictures, but most hurried past in the rain. "I remember that project now," Musk said, still looking through the notebook. The report said it wasn't showing enough progress to justify the cost. But these calculations, he turned another page. These solve the heating problems we were having. And this cooling system design, it's brilliant. How long have you been working on this? I never stopped, Jaiho said quietly. Even after I lost my job, my apartment, everything. I knew the solution was close. I just needed more time. The rain started falling harder. Musk didn't move, totally absorbed in reading Jaiho's work. His expensive shoes were getting muddy, and his t-shirt was soaked. But he kept reading. What happened? He asked finally. How did you end up here? Jaiho looked at his dirty hands. After I lost my job, I tried to find another one. But my project had failed, and that followed me. Nobody wanted to hire the engineer whose expensive project got canceled. Then my sister Soo-jin got sick. Cancer. I spent all my savings on her treatment. He paused, remembering those difficult months. The medical bills kept coming. I couldn't pay my rent anymore. I sold my car, my computer, everything. Soo-jin recovered, thank goodness, but by then. He gestured at his shelter. This was all I had left. She doesn't know I'm here. I lost my phone, and I was too ashamed to contact her. Musk was quiet for a moment, still holding Jaiho's notebook. The calculations filled page after page, showing years of dedicated work. Even living on the streets, Jaiho had kept working, kept trying to solve the problem. These innovations, Musk said finally, they could change everything. The range increase alone would be revolutionary. And the cost savings in production. He looked at Jaiho. Why didn't you try to contact Tesla? Show them this work. Jaiho laughed sadly. Looking like this, he gestured at his dirty clothes. I can't even get past building security. I tried sending emails from the public library, but who reads emails from a random person claiming to have revolutionary battery designs? A car drove past, splashing water onto the sidewalk. Jaiho quickly moved to protect his papers, but Musk was faster, shielding the notebooks with his body. Sir, Musk's security guard called from the car. We're getting a lot of attention here. Maybe we should. Musk waved him off. Give me a few more minutes. He turned back to Jaiho. You kept working on this for 2 years, living on the streets, and you never gave up. The work was important, Jaiho said simply. I knew it could make a difference. And, he hesitated, it kept me going, kept me thinking like an engineer instead of just a homeless person. Some days, these calculations were all that reminded me of who I really am. Musk stood up, still holding the notebook. The rain had plastered his hair to his head, but he didn't seem to notice or care. He looked at Jaiho for a long moment, then at the careful shelter that protected the precious papers, and finally at the equations that could revolutionize electric car technology. Get in the car, he said suddenly. Jaiho blinked. What? Get in the car. Bring your notebooks. All of them. Musk looked around at the small shelter. Is there anything else you need from here? Jaiho's hands shook as he gathered his papers. Was this really happening? He had dreamed about showing his work to Elon Musk for years, but not like this. Not while looking like a homeless man. I can't, he said. I'm dirty. I'll ruin the car seats. Musk actually laughed. It's just a car. These calculations. He held up the notebook. They're worth 1,000 cars. Come on. Moving slowly, still not quite believing what was happening, Jaiho gathered his notebooks and the few personal items he had managed to keep. Everything fit into one small bag. 2 years of his life, reduced to some notebooks and a change of clothes. The security guard opened the car door, and Jaiho hesitated one last time. Where are we going? First, to get you cleaned up and get some food, Musk said. Then we're going to Tesla headquarters. I want you to show me everything you've been working on. He smiled. I think we might have made a mistake letting you go. A big mistake. Jaiho climbed into the car carefully, holding his bag of notebooks close. The leather seat was softer than anything he had felt in months. As Musk got on the other side, Jai-ho looked back at his shelter, already being taken apart by the wind and rain. For 2 years, he had lived on these streets, working on his ideas, never giving up hope that someday someone would understand their value. Now, sitting in a Tesla with Elon Musk reading his calculations, it felt like a dream. The car pulled away from the curb smoothly. Through the rain-streaked windows, Jai-ho watched his old life disappear. He didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in 2 years, he felt like an engineer again. These cooling system modifications, Musk said, still studying the notebook as they drove. Have you considered how they might work in larger battery arrays? Say, for the semi-project. Jai-ho smiled slightly. The technical questions felt familiar, comfortable. This was his world. Even after 2 years on the streets, he hadn't lost his engineering mind. Actually, he said, reaching for another notebook, I have some ideas about that. As the Tesla moved through the rainy city streets, 2 engineers talked about the future of electric vehicles, while behind them, a cardboard shelter slowly collapsed in the rain, no longer needed by the man who had never stopped believing in his dreams. The Tesla headquarters building looked exactly the same as Jai-ho remembered it. But this time, instead of walking past security with his old employee badge, he was riding up in the private elevator with Elon Musk himself. He had showered and changed into clean clothes at a hotel, but he still felt out of place. Are you sure about this? Jai-ho asked, holding his notebooks tightly. His newly trimmed beard and fresh clothes made him look more like his old self, but 2 years of homelessness had left their mark. More sure than ever, Musk replied, still studying one of Jai-ho's notebooks. These designs need to be tested right away. The potential impact is too big to wait. The elevator doors opened directly into a large conference room. Several people were already waiting there, looking curious and slightly confused. Jai-ho recognized some of them. Senior engineers and executives who used to be his colleagues. Everyone, this is Jai-ho Park, Musk announced. Some of you might remember him from the X-15 battery project. The room grew quiet. Dr. Tae-won Kim, the current head of battery development, stepped forward. He had been Jai-ho's colleague before the layoffs. Jai-ho. Tae-won looked shocked. We thought. No one knew what happened to you after. After I was fired, Jai-ho finished quietly. Yes, a lot happened. Musk spread Jai-ho's notebooks on the conference table. What happened is we made a mistake. A big one. Jai-ho, show them what you've been working on. Taking a deep breath, Jai-ho stepped forward. For 2 years, he had dreamed of this moment. He opened his main notebook to the first page of calculations. The original X-15 project had problems with heat management. He began. His voice was shaky at first, but grew stronger as he focused on the engineering. We were trying to solve it with expensive materials and complex cooling systems, but the real solution was simpler. He drew quickly on the whiteboard, explaining his new design. The room was silent except for the squeak of the marker and Jai-ho's clear explanations. He had practiced these words countless times under his shelter, imagining this moment. The key was changing how we think about the battery cells, he said. Instead of fighting the heat, we use it. Look at this arrangement. He drew more diagrams. The heat from one section actually helps regulate the temperature in another. It's like a natural cooling system. Dr. Kim stepped closer to the board, his eyes wide. This would reduce cooling system costs by at least 60% and increase range by 40%, Musk added, all while using mostly existing parts and manufacturing processes. One of the executives raised his hand. Where did these calculations come from? How do we know they're reliable? I did them while I was homeless, Jai-ho said simply. The room grew quiet again. I had nothing else to do except think about this problem. All day, every day, for 2 years. I checked every calculation hundreds of times. He turned to a new page in his notebook. But that was just the start. Once I solved the heating problem, I realized we could do more. Much more. For the next hour, Jai-ho explained his innovations. He had thought about every detail during those long days on the street. How to make the batteries cheaper to produce. How to make them last longer. How to make them safer. The room filled with excited discussion as more engineers arrived to listen. "Why didn't you tell us about these ideas before you left?" someone asked. Jai-ho paused in his explanation. "I tried. I sent emails. I called. But no one wanted to listen to someone who had just been fired." He looked down at his hands, clean now but still showing the roughness of street life. "After a while, I couldn't even afford a phone." Musk stepped forward. "That's why we're making changes to how we handle innovations and employee ideas. But first," he looked at Jai-ho, "we need to talk about your sister." Jai-ho's hand froze on the whiteboard. "Soo-jin, what about her?" "We found her," Musk said gently. "She's been looking for you for months. She's on her way here now." Jai-ho sat down heavily in a chair. "She knows about," he gestured at himself, meaning his time on the streets. "She knows her brother never gave up on his ideas," Musk said. "That's what matters." The door opened, and a young woman rushed in. Jai-ho. Soo-jin looked different from how Jai-ho remembered her. Her hair was shorter, and she looked healthy now, nothing like the pale, sick person he had last seen. She stopped when she saw him, her eyes filling with tears. "You stupid, brilliant brother," she said, her voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me? I've been searching everywhere for you." "I spent all our money on your treatment," Jai-ho said quietly. "I couldn't ask for more help." "That wasn't your choice to make." Soo-jin stepped forward and hugged him tightly. "I got better, but you disappeared. Do you know how worried I've been?" The room tactfully emptied as the siblings talked. Soo-jin had recovered fully and found work as a data analyst. She had been searching homeless shelters and posting on social media, trying to find her brother. "I have an apartment," she said. "You could have stayed with me instead of," she wiped her eyes, "instead of living on the street and working on battery calculations like a crazy person." "The calculations worked, though," Jai-ho said with a small smile. "They're going to test them." "Of course they worked. Everything you design works eventually." Soo-jin looked at the notebooks spread across the table. "But you didn't have to do it alone." Musk returned to the room. "Jai-ho, we'd like to offer you your job back. Not your old job. A new position. Head of Innovation for the Battery Division. We need someone who thinks differently, who doesn't give up." Jai-ho looked at his sister, then at his notebooks full of drawings and calculations. "I'll accept on one condition." "Name it," Musk said. "We need a program to help other engineers and tech workers who fall through the cracks. People who have good ideas but lose their jobs, their homes." Jai-ho thought of the others he had met on the streets. There's so much wasted talent out there. Musk nodded slowly. "A foundation to support displaced tech workers and their families. That's actually a very good idea." He smiled. "Write up a proposal. Use as many notebooks as you need." Later that evening, Jai-ho stood at the window of his hotel room, looking out at the city lights. His notebooks were safely stored in Tesla's secure development lab. Tomorrow, they would start testing his designs. Soo-jin sat on the couch, ordering dinner for them both. "I still can't believe you lived on the street for 2 years, working on battery designs." "I couldn't give up," Jai-ho said. "The idea was too important. And," he paused, "it kept me feeling human. Like an engineer, not just a homeless person." "Well, now you can work on your ideas in a proper lab," Soo-jin said, "with a proper place to live." Jai-ho nodded, but his mind was already working on plans for the foundation. He thought about the people he had met on the streets, former programmers, engineers, designers, people who had fallen on hard times but still had so much to offer. His phone buzzed, a new company phone, given to him just hours ago. It was a message from Musk. "Meeting tomorrow at 9. Bring your ideas for the foundation. Think big. Jai-ho smiled. He had spent 2 years thinking big while living small. Now he had the chance to help others do the same. He picked up a fresh notebook, also new, and began to write. Outside his window, the same rain that had soaked his shelter now fell on clean glass. Somewhere out there, someone else was probably working on their own ideas, needing just one chance to make them real. Soon, Jai-ho hoped they would have that chance. Food's coming in 20 minutes, Soo-jin said. Are you working on the foundation plans already? Someone helped me today when I needed it most, Jai-ho replied, still writing. Now it's my turn to help others. He looked at his sister, healthy and happy, then at his new notebook filled with fresh possibilities. Sometimes losing everything was the only way to find something bigger than yourself. His battery designs would change how cars worked, but this foundation, this might change how people's lives worked. And that, Jai-ho thought, was an even better innovation. The Tesla research laboratory hummed with activity as Jai-ho stood before the test battery array. 3 weeks had passed since his return to Tesla, and today they would test his new design for the first time. Dr. Taewon Kim stood beside him, checking the monitoring equipment. All sensors are working, Taewon said, looking at the screens. Are you ready to start the test? Jai-ho nodded, his eyes fixed on the battery setup. He had drawn these designs countless times in his notebooks while sitting on the streets. Now they were real, built exactly to his specifications by Tesla's best engineers. Begin the power cycling test, Jai-ho said. His voice was calm, but his hands were tight at his sides. Everything he had worked for came down to this moment. The batteries hummed to life. On the large screens around the lab, numbers and graphs showed their performance. Engineers watched closely, taking notes and whispering to each other. At the back of the room, Elon Musk stood quietly, his arms crossed. Temperature is rising, Taewon announced. This was the critical moment. In the old design, they would need to start the cooling systems now. But Jai-ho's design was different. Wait, Jai-ho said, watching the numbers. Watch the heat distribution. The room grew tense as the temperature continued to climb. Then, exactly as Jai-ho had calculated in his street-side notebooks, something remarkable happened. The heat began to flow through the battery array in a controlled pattern, each section helping to cool the others. It's working, Taewon whispered. The natural cooling system is actually working. The test continued for hours. Jai-ho's design performed exactly as he had predicted. The batteries ran cooler, used less energy, and showed a 40% increase in range. When they finally powered down the system, the room burst into applause. Musk walked forward, looking at the results on the screens. How soon can we scale this up for production? We can start modifying the production lines next week, Jai-ho said. I've already drawn up the plans. He pulled out one of his notebooks, now accompanied by proper technical documents. The best part is that we can use most of our existing equipment. We just need to change how we arrange the components. Perfect, Musk said. But that's not all you've been working on, is it? Jai-ho smiled slightly. During his 3 weeks back at Tesla, he had done more than just prepare for this test. Every evening, after working on the battery project, he had developed plans for the foundation he had proposed. The Jai-ho Foundation proposal is ready, he said. Would you like to see it? They moved to the conference room where Jai-ho had first presented his battery designs. Soo-jin was waiting there. She had taken time off from her data analyst job to help develop the foundation's structure. We've identified 3 main groups who need help, Soo-jin explained, showing slides on the large screen. First, tech workers who lose their jobs during company restructuring. Second, innovators whose projects get canceled before completion. Third, technical professionals facing personal crises like medical emergencies. Jai-ho took over the presentation. The foundation will provide 3 things: financial support for basic needs, access to development resources, and most importantly, a way to continue their work. He showed designs for a planned innovation center. We'll give them lab space, computers, and technical support. They can keep developing their ideas without worrying about becoming homeless. Like you did, Musk said quietly. Yes, Jai-ho agreed, but they'll have help. And when they develop something valuable, they'll have a direct path to present it to interested companies. Soo-jin changed to the next slide. We've already found our first candidate, Myra Song, a former software engineer who lost her job when her company closed. She's been living in her car while trying to finish developing a new type of AI algorithm. Where is she now? Musk asked. In the hotel where Jai-ho stayed his first night back. Soo-jin said. We've arranged temporary housing for her while we set up the foundation. She's already working on her project again. Musk studied the proposal carefully. This is well thought out. The foundation could change how Silicon Valley handles innovation and employee support. Tesla will back it fully. He looked at Jai-ho. You've done more in 3 weeks than most people do in a year. I had 2 years to think about all of this, Jai-ho said. When you're on the streets, you have a lot of time to plan. I just didn't have the resources to make it happen. Later that evening, Jai-ho and Soo-jin visited the building that would become the foundation's first innovation center. It was an old warehouse near Tesla's headquarters, but Jai-ho saw its potential. The main lab will be here, he said, walking through the empty space. Individual work areas along the walls, a cafeteria and rest area in the back. Everything someone needs to work on their ideas without worrying about survival. Soo-jin watched her brother with pride. You're not just changing battery technology. You're changing lives. I lived this problem, Jai-ho said. I know what it's like to have ideas, but no way to develop them. To have skills, but no place to use them. He looked around the empty building. This place will change that. His phone buzzed with a message. It was from Myra Song, the foundation's first candidate. My algorithm is working. When can I show you? Jai-ho smiled and showed the message to Soo-jin. This is just the beginning. The next morning, Jai-ho stood in his new office at Tesla, looking at his old notebooks displayed in a glass case on the wall. Musk had insisted on preserving them as a reminder of what determination could achieve. Beside them hung the first technical drawings of his battery design, now being implemented across Tesla's production lines. Taiwan came in with the latest test results. The production prototypes are performing even better than the lab test. This is going to revolutionize electric vehicles. That's good, Jai-ho said. But I'm more excited about this. He showed Taiwan his screen, displaying profiles of 10 more potential candidates for the foundation. Each one had a story similar to his. Brilliant people with valuable ideas, struggling to survive while trying to innovate. We start interviewing them next week, Jai-ho explained. By the end of the month, the Innovation Center will be ready. You're building more than just a foundation, Taiwan said. You're building a new way to think about innovation and human potential. Jai-ho nodded. He thought about his time on the streets, working on his notebooks while a world passed by. How many others were out there right now, holding onto their ideas, needing just one chance? Success isn't just about having good ideas, he said. It's about having the support to develop them. I was lucky. Elon Musk stopped his car that day. But we can't rely on luck. We need a system that finds these innovators before they end up on the streets. As if to emphasize his point, his phone buzzed with another message. This one was from a former aerospace engineer who had read about the foundation. She had designs for improving rocket fuel efficiency, but had lost her job 6 months ago. Tell her to come in tomorrow, Jai-ho told his assistant, and make sure we have a workstation ready for her. The sun set over Silicon Valley, casting long shadows through Jai-ho's office window. Somewhere out there, another engineer or programmer or designer was probably working on their own revolutionary idea, fighting against time and resources to make it real. But now, thanks to one man who never stopped believing in his ideas, even while living on the streets, they would have a place to go. a place where innovation didn't depend on luck or status, but only on the power of ideas and the determination to make them real. Jai-ho looked at his old notebooks one last time before heading home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new ideas, new opportunities to help others. The battery design was just the beginning. The real innovation was just starting. 3 months had passed since the successful testing of Jai-ho's battery design. The Jai-ho Foundation's Innovation Center was now fully operational, housed in the renovated warehouse. On this bright morning, Jai-ho walked through the main entrance, passing under the Foundation's motto carved in steel. Innovation never sleeps. The space inside was nothing like the empty warehouse it had been. Clean workstations lined the walls, each occupied by someone working on their projects. The cafeteria served 3 meals a day, and comfortable rest areas provided places to think and collaborate. Most importantly, no one here had to worry about where they would sleep that night. Mei Song, the Foundation's first candidate, rushed up to meet Jai-ho. She had changed from the tired, worried person they had found living in her car. Now she stood tall, confident, her AI project nearly complete. "The latest test results are amazing," she said, leading Jai-ho to her workstation. "The algorithm can predict manufacturing defects 12 hours before they appear. It could save companies millions in lost production time." Jai-ho looked at her screens, remembering how he used to draw on scraps of paper under his shelter. "Have you shown this to anyone yet?" Mei nodded excitedly. 3 companies want to license it. The Foundation's legal team is helping me negotiate the contracts. This was exactly what Jai-ho had hoped for. The Foundation didn't just give people a place to work. It helped them protect and profit from their innovations. Every success story proved that good ideas could come from anywhere, even from people who had lost everything. His phone buzzed with a message from Elon Musk. "Board meeting in an hour. Bring your quarterly report. And your sister, we need her data analysis." The Tesla boardroom felt different now. Jai-ho no longer felt out of place here. He stood confidently before the board members, Soo-jin beside him with her data presentations ready. "The new battery design has exceeded all expectations," Jai-ho began. "Production costs are down 40%. Vehicle range is up 45%, even better than our initial estimates. Customer satisfaction rates have reached record highs." Soo-jin took over, showing graphs on the large screen. "The Foundation has also shown remarkable results. In 3 months, we've helped 35 displaced tech workers. 7 have already developed marketable innovations. 4 have received job offers from major companies. The return on investment is nearly triple our projections." One board member leaned forward. "And what about the human impact?" Jai-ho smiled. "This was the most important part. Not a single person who has come through our program is homeless anymore. They're all working, creating, contributing to society again." He paused. "But numbers don't tell the whole story. I'd like you to meet someone." The boardroom door opened, and Dr. Han-Sol Lee walked in. She was the aerospace engineer who had contacted Jai-ho about her rocket fuel efficiency designs. 3 months ago, Dr. Lee was living in a shelter, Jai-ho said. Today, she's about to revolutionize space travel. "Doctor, please show them your work." Han-Sol's presentation captivated the board. Her fuel efficiency design could reduce launch costs by 30%. When she finished, Musk immediately offered to license her technology for SpaceX. "This is exactly why we created the Foundation," Jai-ho said after Han-Sol left. "Brilliant people just needing a chance to prove their ideas. How many others are out there right now, holding onto their innovations while fighting just to survive?" The board voted unanimously to increase the Foundation's funding. They would open 2 more innovation centers by the end of the year. Later that afternoon, Jai-ho visited his old spot near the intersection where Musk had found him. The cardboard shelter was long gone, but he could still picture himself sitting there, working on his notebooks. A young woman sat nearby, typing on an old laptop. She looked tired, worried, just as he had been. Jai-ho approached her carefully. "What are you working on?" he asked, using the same words Musk had said to him. The woman looked up suspiciously, then her eyes widened with recognition. "You're Jai-Ho Park. I read about you in the tech news." "Yes," he said, sitting down beside her. "Tell me about your project." She hesitated, then turned her laptop to show him. "It's a new type of search algorithm. I was leading the development team at my company, but they shut down 6 months ago. I've been trying to finish it on my own. But," she gestured at her worn backpack and the coffee shop where she used the free Wi-Fi. Jai-Ho took out his business card. "Come to this address tomorrow morning. Bring your laptop and any notes you have. We have a workstation waiting for you." The woman stared at the card, then at Jai-Ho. "Just like that." "Just like that," he confirmed. "Someone gave me a chance when I needed it most. Now I'm passing it on." That evening, Jai-Ho sat in his office at Tesla, looking at the framed newspapers on his wall. The headlines told his story. "Homeless engineer's innovation revolutionizes Tesla batteries. Jai-Ho Foundation changes lives in Silicon Valley. From street to success. How one man's determination changed an industry." Soo-Jin came in with coffee and sat down across from him. "The Foundation's new candidate selection committee is ready to start work. We'll be able to help twice as many people now." "Good," Jai-Ho said. "But we need to do more. Every person we help is another potential breakthrough waiting to happen." He showed her his laptop screen. "I've been working on a new idea." Soo-Jin leaned forward to look. On the screen were plans for a nationwide network of innovation centers, each one ready to catch brilliant minds before they fell through society's cracks. "Think bigger," she said with a smile, using the words Musk had told Jai-Ho months ago. "I am," Jai-Ho replied. "But first, we need to make sure our current centers are running perfectly. Success isn't just about having good ideas, it's about executing them properly." His phone buzzed again. It was a message from Mirai. "Just signed the licensing contracts. The algorithm will be implemented in factories next month. Thank you for believing in me." Jai-Ho showed the message to Soo-Jin. "This is why we do this. Every person we help is a story of redemption waiting to happen." Through his office window, he could see the lights of the Innovation Center glowing in the evening darkness. Inside, people who had nearly lost everything were working on ideas that might change the world. Just as he had done, they were finding their way back, not just to success, but to believing in themselves again. "Remember what you told me when we started this?" Soo-Jin asked. "That sometimes losing everything is the only way to find something bigger than yourself." Jai-Ho nodded. "I found something bigger. We all did. Now we're helping others find their way too." The lights of Silicon Valley sparkled beyond his window, each one perhaps shining on someone with a brilliant idea, needing just one chance to make it real. Thanks to the Foundation, more of those lights would lead to innovation centers, where determination met opportunity, and where redemption was always possible. 1 year had passed since the rainy evening when Elon Musk's Tesla stopped beside Jai-Ho's shelter. The changes that followed that moment had grown far beyond what anyone expected. On this bright morning, reporters gathered outside the newest Jai-Ho Foundation Innovation Center for its grand opening. Jai-Ho stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. Beside him sat Elon Musk, Soo-Jin, and the Foundation's first success stories. Myra Song, Dr. Han Sol Lee, and dozens of others who had found their way back through the Foundation's help. 1 year ago, Jai-Ho began. "I was living on the streets, working on battery designs and notebooks I kept dry under plastic sheets. Today, those designs power every Tesla vehicle, and our foundation has helped over 200 brilliant minds continue their work through difficult times." He gestured at the new building behind him. "This is our 5th Innovation Center, but it's more than just a building. It's a promise to every person with a good idea. You will not be forgotten. You will not have to choose between survival and innovation." The new center was the largest yet. Its clean lines and modern design made it look more like a tech company headquarters than a support center. Inside, Workspace pods, research labs, and collaboration areas waited for their first occupants. But the real story isn't about buildings or programs, Jai-ho continued. It's about transformation, not just of technology, but of how we think about innovation and human potential. He nodded to Mei, who stood and walked to the podium. Her AI defect detection system was now used in factories worldwide, saving millions in production costs. When I was living in my car, Mei said, I still believed in my ideas, but belief wasn't enough. I needed support, resources, and most importantly, people who would listen. The foundation gave me all of that. Dr. Han-Sol Lee spoke next. Her rocket fuel efficiency designs had revolutionized space launch costs. Innovation doesn't care about your bank account or your address. It only cares about the power of your ideas and your determination to make them real. After the speeches, Jai-ho led tours through the new facility. Each area had been designed based on lessons learned from the previous centers. The workspace pods could be customized for different types of projects. The research labs had the latest equipment. The living quarters upstairs were comfortable and private. How many people will this center help? A reporter asked. We can support 50 residents at a time, Jai-ho explained, but the impact goes far beyond that. Each person who succeeds here inspires others. Each innovation that comes out of this building shows what's possible when we invest in human potential. Later that afternoon, Jai-ho sat in his office at Tesla, reviewing the changes of the past year. His battery design had exceeded all expectations. Tesla's production costs were down, vehicle range was up, and customer satisfaction had reached record levels. But the foundation's success meant even more to him. They had not lost a single resident back to homelessness. Every person who came through their programs either developed successful innovations or found new jobs in their fields. The foundation's support system made sure no one fell through the cracks again. Soo-jin came in with their latest data analysis. The numbers are amazing, she said. The foundation's return on investment is now 5 times higher than projected. Companies are starting to copy our model. 3 other major tech firms have started similar programs. Good, Jai-ho said. This was never about being the only one doing this. It's about changing how the industry thinks about innovation and the people behind it. His phone buzzed with a message from Musk. Board meeting in 10 minutes. Big announcement. In the Tesla boardroom, Musk stood before the assembled board members and executives. Today, we're announcing a new company policy, he said. Any project cancellation or restructuring that could affect innovative work must go through a thorough review process. We're calling it the Park Protocol, after the engineer whose brilliant ideas we almost lost. Jai-ho listened as Musk explained the new policy. Every innovative project would have a chance to prove its value. Engineers and developers would have support systems in place before any major changes. The company would work with the foundation to ensure no good ideas were lost due to temporary setbacks. 1 year ago, Musk said, I stopped my car because I saw someone working on complex equations while living on the street. That moment changed not just one life, but how we think about innovation itself. After the meeting, Jai-ho walked through the Tesla factory. His battery designs were now standard in every vehicle being produced. Workers who had once been skeptical of the homeless engineer's ideas now pointed proudly to the improved systems. He drove to the intersection where his old shelter had been. A small plaque now marked the spot. On this corner, determination met opportunity. The Jai-ho Foundation began here. As he stood looking at the plaque, a young woman approached him. Are you Jai-ho Park? She asked. I've been working on a new type of solar cell design, but I lost my job last month. I heard your foundation helps people like me. Jai-ho smiled and took out his business card. Come to our new center tomorrow morning. Bring your designs and your determination. We'll provide everything else. That evening, Jai-ho sat with Soo-jin in his apartment, looking out at the city lights. Did you ever imagine, when you were searching for me, that all this would happen? He asked. I just wanted to find my brother. Sujin said. Instead, I found a movement that's changing lives. Jaiho thought about his time on the streets, working endlessly on his notebooks. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives lead to the best opportunities to help others. His phone buzzed one last time that day. It was a group photo from the new Innovation Center. The first group of residents had moved in, each one carrying ideas and dreams that might change the world. Among them was the young woman with the solar cell designs, already deep in discussion with other innovators. This is what transformation looks like, Jaiho said, showing Sujin the photo. Not just changing technology, but changing lives. Not just helping people survive, but helping them thrive. Outside, the city sparkled with possibility. Somewhere out there, another brilliant mind might be struggling, holding onto an idea that could change the world. But now, thanks to one man who never gave up, they would have a place to go. A place where innovation met opportunity, where determination met support, and where transformation was always possible. The Jaiho Foundation had become more than just a safety net. It was a launching pad for the next generation of innovations and innovators. And it all started because one man kept believing in his ideas, even when he had nothing else. Ready for tomorrow? Sujin asked. The solar cell design presentation is at 9. Always ready, Jaiho replied, opening a fresh notebook. Some habits never changed. There's always another idea waiting to change the world. We just have to make sure it gets its chance.